Now if I delete that, you can still see it's there, right? If I take the opacity, go all the way down on it, it's gone. But it's really still there. So then what I do is delete that, and I start working on the background photo. Nice thing about that too is that if I end up going too far, you know, I get kind of get caught up in the moment, and I end up looking back and going, oh man, I can't believe I did that. Then I can always soften it with the top layer. But yeah, see, so some of these areas here, I'm gonna just leave them alone for now. This area here, I'm just gonna blend it. I can take my opacity on my actual tools down a bit. This way, see, it blends really nice. The more I go over it, the more it'll blend it out, so. It's starting to come. This, you know, I'm actually getting very encouraged. I'm just gonna come back and bring these back up. Work a little bit in here. Nice thing about this too is that once I get a section that's clean, I can start creating bigger sections because I can just start drawing it across. Just gonna make this a little smaller. But like I said, it's all about what the client wants. I mean, if they want, like for example, I was working with a model, and she wanted. She was, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, she was a little more mature. I don't mean mature mentally, I mean mature physically. She was an older, she was starting to get up there. She was a good-looking girl, but was starting to kind of show her age a bit. So she liked working with me because I could airbrush her. And she made no bones about it. I mean, she was kind of like almost obsessed with the airbrushing and that. So I remember bringing her 2 proofs. One was like I basically airbrushed her, but it was like a soft job. It wasn't really kind of hardcore airbrushing. I kind of left some look to her. And then the other one, I kind of went hardcore and I really airbrushed it to the point where it was the image was actually starting to not even look like her. And she wanted me to take the one that was starting not to look like her. That's the one she wanted, and she actually told me to airbrush it even more. When I was done with the image, and she was using these as like headshots to show clients, like to send to clients to get work. And when I was done with that project, it didn't even look like her, or very, very, it was a very distant resemblance of her, and she loved it. She was like, "Yeah, that's what I wanted. I like it," and which I thought was kind of like deceiving because you got to remember, she's sending these images out to clients. She was working like a lot of car shows, you know, like those bathing suit models at shows, around booths, stuff like that. And I just thought to myself, man, when she shows up to these shows after the people hire her based on her headshot, they're going to be thoroughly disappointed because she looked nothing like her headshot. But it's not for me to judge, right? I mean, if that's how she wants to, if that's how she wants to run it, yeah, who am I to judge, right? Having said that too, probably the first, it was one of the earlier modeling clients that I took on, and I'll never make that mistake again. To be honest with you, she was actually a complete nightmare to work with. Suffice it to say, I actually lost money on the job because she kept wanting changes. I mean, changes cost money because changes create time. It irks me sometimes when people think photographers just press a button on a camera and all of a sudden that image appears. There's a lot of post-production that goes on to get that image to look the way it does, that a lot of times when you try and bill that, the client just doesn't understand. I mean, they love and appreciate the final product, but when you tell them, like, yeah, I spent 3 hours kind of color correcting that or working on that, they think, well, what took you so long? And it's insulting. But I mean, it's about education, right? You want a nice image. You're entrusting me to give you that image. I mean, I had one client that actually, his father, who had passed away, was featured on a cover of a magazine, and it was actually a really great shot of his father. But he was in his work clothes, and he was a miner, so he was in like his mining kind of jumpsuit thing, and this guy, wanted that picture. Like, basically what I did is I high-res scanned the magazine cover and spent like a lot of time kind of extracting it from the magazine cover. And then he asked me if I could actually remove his father's head off the magazine cover, because he really liked his hair and the way he looked, and that's kind of how he remembered him. And he asked me if I could take the head and put it on a suit, so that he had a picture of his dad in a suit, because he said he didn't have any really good pictures of his father in a suit. I told him I would try it. I did it. It looked passable. I basically ran the photo by a couple of people I know that are that I trust. Will be honest with me. What I'm going to do right now is see how it's starting to blend in here and it's starting to smooth out. What I want to do is I want to take this, it's called a healing tool or a healing brush, and it works very much the same way as the clone tool, except what it does is it picks up texture. So see the way that this image here, see this looks soft right in here, and this, it actually looks like there's texture in the picture. So what it does is it actually will pick up that texture. So what I can do is just go like this and see, it's going to keep the tone of that image, but it's going to pick that texture up and place it in there. So I can kind of add texture so it doesn't look like I've airbrushed out a section of the photo. And then once I get more there, I can just add on to it. So once again, I always like to just jump out a bit, take a look. So yeah, so I can create those creases and all that and bring those lines together. This area here is actually starting to look really nice. So I'm going to clone some more. So what I can do now is I can actually start adding those lines back in. And once again, you don't want to overdo it, so I don't want to add too much. I mean, let's face it, the picture, the reason that softness was there was because that's actually part of the picture. I just professionally and personally feel that it makes it look like it was doctored. So I'm going to kind of help it along so that it wasn't, so that it looks like it wasn't. Definitely is. I mean, I don't think there's a professional picture out there that has come straight out of camera and directly to client. I mean, every picture gets worked on. Every picture has something done to it. Yeah. See, there's a lot of these I might just leave in there because, like I said, when you really start getting down to it, it's gonna actually make it look doctored. And that's like that's a lot of work in there. It's not that I'm not going to do the work. I just don't want to do it right now. I want to actually I want to do stuff that is like where the change is really noticeable. So see, like right in here, get rid of that crease. That line's going nicely. Oh, see, I just Control Z, it's one of your best friends. When you start looking at images and that, if there's like, for example, up here, this whole section would be a loss and I wouldn't even have taken the job on. Well, I probably would have, but I would have asked for several photos of this child at this age and then try and reconstruct it that way. but when you got half the face already, then you can actually start building it. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. And it's